everybody. I am sitting here on my podcasting couch. No Tyra tonight. I do have Johnny Khan, John the Cause. John O'Connell's jumping on with me, and he was just fixing a camera thing real quick, and he'll be on. And then when he does come on, I will play the music and we'll get going here. Man, my camera still wouldn't lock up, but I should at least sound pretty good today. It should be pretty straightforward. I am telling you this. I'm already telling you this. I am working on another plan to have a smoother broadcast, and I know I can do it. I just got to execute, spend a little bit more money a different way. Hello, Valencia. So, in my new way, I might not be able to really highlight the comments like that, but they are still on the screen, as you can already see. They're on the side. Actually, I can see it pop up in the little Twitch preview before I actually see it in the chat for the show, which is funny. There's Sarah Rose, and thank you, Valencia. I know I always look good, but tonight I also sound good. So yeah, John's jumping in here in just a second. We just had a somewhat of an issue with the computer connection and whatnot, but it is all good. So let me ask you this: what do you think of the purple behind me? I'm still working on lighting. I need my good buddy Avito to come on over and help me with my lighting because it could use some help. It's definitely better. It's definitely good. I am happy with it, and I'm happy where it's progressing to rather. But I'd really like the little backlights to pop. So I'm thinking maybe I put a set of turn these big lights off. I don't know. I'm playing with different ideas, but I really could use some help. And just kind of here he comes.
Please joined.
Oh, well, he was on and it fell off. So I'm gonna give it one more second here. But yeah, so we've got some new faces coming into the track this year as far as volunteers goes.
Faster joined.
There we go. And let's put it over here. And how are we doing now, John? Everything smooth?
It sounds a little bit better so far. There's still lag.
There might be a little bit. But you seem to be better from my side.
That's good.
All right, so I am going to go ahead and hit the music, and away we go. Are you tired of being awesome alone? Well, so am I. I'm missing you, Tyra, but we got John O'Connell on tonight. Let's be awesome together. Oh, yeah, it is Wednesday night. It is time to stop being awesome alone, and let's all be awesome together. Tyra had one more function this week that she had to take care of and knock out, so she was very sad. I told her that we all missed her, which made her even more sad. However, she is promising to be back next week, and we've got some more guests coming up. I don't know exactly who or when they are, but they are coming. So, yeah, everything is lagging everywhere. I'm noticing that in the stream. I'm noticing that somewhat on all of our sides. I don't know what the deal is. He's like, last week it went smooth. This week is a little off. The setup's the same. So we're going to do the best we can with what we have because being awesome is not about necessarily being perfect. And that's the way that goes. So,
good.
John is known in our Discord as Quack Faster. So that is my first question of the evening. Where does Quack Faster come from?
Well, when I started volunteering at Dragon Con for Tech Ops, they asked for your badge name, and it had to, and I was like, well, I don't really have one. And it's like, well, we'll assign you one. And I was like, good. And they actually did. I think Ms. Quackfaster was actually the full part of it, but that was apparently Scrooge McDuck's secretary.
Okay.
And I was like, well, how about just Quackfaster? And I've tried to shorten it to Quack at times, but everybody's like, no, it's got to be 2 syllables at least. So I stick with Quackfaster.
you couldn't have gone with Johnny Con. That one could have worked.
There were other ones out there, but I figured, if you get a name bestowed upon you, you kind of got to stick with it.
No, I get that. I am going to make a quick change. They're saying there's some double audio. So let me. Why is it not letting me get up here? Click it. Let's see. And all right, John, can you hear yourself back?
Let me see what happens. Oh,
See?
that's better.
Okay. For some reason, it had
I don't
started
have
over.
I don't have that second guy talking after me. Can you hear me?
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I can hear you.
Good.
What
Yeah.
that is. It is weird, and you know what? I don't apologize. Tyra left me alone. This is what happens after 5 weeks of Tyra being gone. It just goes all to hell. What can I say?
You
We need Mama T come back.
not only being left unsupervised, but being left unsupervised for extended periods.
That's right. So it's not my fault.
So
He left me alone for a long time. So okay. So how long? Okay, everybody's watch. If you're not watching, and you're on the podcast. John is in a shirt and tie, like he's a professional. He looks like he works for WSB TV, something like that. So why are you dressed up, John?
I had it on today for the sake of our Easter celebration. So, but yeah, I actually do this to confuse other people at my office. They're not used to the old guy with the tie. I kind of do it as a my own kind of grown up cosplay.
I like it. I like it.
I've come
Uh,
back into an office I was working for 10 years ago. And in the interim, of course, the only ones left at the office are the two guys I work for. Everyone around and under me in the hierarchy is all these kids. So I kind of have this little gang of minions that are all very young, 26, 27 years old. And I'm like, I've got novelty socks older than you people. And I can say things like that all the time.
how much joy does that bring you to compare people to novelty socks?
Oh, it's infinite. I mean, seriously, I occasionally they'll be grousing about something about to do with their age, and I have to kind of throw that in there just to keep them, if not humble, at least aware that there's a context there that that their ages are half mine. So it's like I think I can at least tell you that I'm have the wisdom of age. Although there was actually something kind of funny today that happened. It was that guy very quickly. I had somebody come up. Oh,
No, you're fine. I'm still here. Keep going.
and okay, and I had somebody come up with a building code issue. I'm an architect, and it was a local building official giving him problems about a detail we had done for a stairwell in the ceiling, and I was like, yeah, that kind of is a cheat, what we designed. And most of the places will let us get away with it. But yeah, there's not really a official design that actually conforms with this. You're going to have to do this, this, and this. And he's like, oh, okay, yeah. He wasn't terribly convinced. And then he had this 20-minute conversation with the building code official that told him the exact same thing. So I actually did get my props after that. He's like, you know what he told me to do? He told me exactly what you told me to do. So I'm like, yes, yes. And so they say nice things to me occasionally. So it's actually not bad working for them.
So, what brought you to Dragon Con from that kind of world?
I always I found it something that I always was I knew about the parade, and I knew about the basically when the event got bigger and bigger. I think they talk about the year that they had just the huge explosion in interest on it that the year, and that was kind of the one I kind of became. And my kids really wanted to go to the parade every year. That was their entry to it, was actually taking the kids almost as soon as they were able to deal with parades and going to the parades every year. So after that, of course, that we started doing a little bit of cosplaying ourselves, and then hanging out in the Peachtree Center food court, which was the most active place outside the badge line, to go in. Then for a couple of years, bought full kind of like passes for the family. And then one of my kids' teachers, actually, is Church, who is the hotel director for Tech Ops for the Hyatt, and she kind of singled me out, and or singled me and Jennifer out, and kind of roped us into volunteering, quickly realizing that we were kind of her people, very much into the counterculture, the nerdy culture, and the things like that, and knowing what our kids were like with her kids at the school.
You just
and that
dated
thing.
yourself. So, you just dated yourself, John.
What?
I heard it. I heard it. What? Nerdy culture.
What I say?
You said counterculture.
I said the nerdy counterculture.
Yeah.
Oh no. Dating myself is I can't hardly help it.
So okay, you just got sucked deeper and deeper into the world that is Dragon Con. How many years? Have you been
and the fact that this is depending on how one counts it, I think it's my 8th or 9th year. There's that asterisk on 2020, but I tried. I was signed up.
Yeah, I don't know how they do or don't count that, to be honest. I think they said they're basically going to count it because everybody had signed, whoever had signed up by the time they I don't know, it was a thing. So yeah, 8 or 9 years. So but you've been going, what sounds like well over a decade now.
Yeah, I've got. Yeah, it's kind of funny the way I'm actually tracking it is the how many versions of the app I've gotten loaded into my phone. It keeps all the different conventions, and I think I go back to like 2014 or so, 2012. Something way back when they first started having the Dragon Con app.
Oh man, I wish I'd been there in 2012. I bet they did something along the lines of the World Didn't End party.
Yeah, I think that might have been a little like I started probably. I was in the. I think those were the parade years. I don't think I was actually doing the tickets in 2012. That would have been right before that. But we were definitely going to the parade every year.
What is it about the parade that you guys love?
It was just that it was such a celebration of all the kind of, iconography and the fun things. It didn't take itself seriously. You could spend a lot of time just kind of go, well, where the hell is that from? And, kind of pointing at things. And it was a way to the kids also got a chance to kind of show off their knowledge of things that I didn't necessarily know about. There was the Carter very early on was into this kind of visual culture, like the kind of anime Japanese kind of hostess style things where they have like little tea parties and tea room kind of things and the little frilly dresses and that kind of thing. And when she was into that, it was definitely, and then even Homestuck was the other kind of subculture. And she kind of jokes like an old soul about that, because it's like, yeah, all the kids that were doing old Homestuck at 9 years old and 10 years old are all like in their 20s now and going, oh, I remember back when we were doing this. And, that's kind of the generational transition that happens for everybody that does this thing. They it's been very much, I've been watching, obviously over the years, not only my kids, but, other people that I volunteer with, their kids going from being the little kids running around one year to working next to them at the desk, and the next year, a few years later, or then, some of the little kids that I was working with at the very beginning, doing volunteering, are now like running the department, running departments or running one of them in particular is actually over at MomoCon doing pretty much tech ops and at the head of that now. So it's like, oh, isn't that cute?
So what just because you were the people you got drawn into tech ops because you just vibed? What is your background that because I mean, let's be real. Nothing about the surface of John says I'm an AV professional. I mean, but you know your stuff, and you got pulled in naturally into that
Yeah,
department.
I think it had to do with what church was working with. That was church's department. I think she saw fresh meat for volunteering and kind of like, well, I think you'll work fine. And I'd been doing. I mean, I'd never not been uh, dealing with theater life and sort of things like that related. I've never really been working a soundboard or working a camera, but I've certainly been in the world where connected to that with other people. Uh, spent a lot of time with theater kids, married one even. So and then so that's been the really where it comes from, and just being technically oriented or comfortable around electronics or technology as much as I can be, given how much fun this was just setting up tonight. But so you kind of there's nothing keeps you humble like having 2 minutes to figure out what's wrong with something, and I'm like what I've learned is my best role in tech ops was to be calm and let everybody panic around me, and then just wait for the person who's really the most senior in the group to tell me what to do. I think it was so funny.
Theater, you say?
And yeah, the she would the spending time doing backstage of things. Actually, I went to high school in a place in Birmingham, Alabama called the Alabama School of Fine Arts, and I was a visual arts and writing, did writing and visual arts majoring when I was there. You actually had to pick much like a performing arts high school, you have to pick your specialty to kind of be in. And
I guess in
but
Alabama,
it was
the visual arts is just cursive.
you know you don't you're not making any joke an alumni hasn't already made about it.
Fair enough.
So
what was your specialty?
It was visual arts. I was painting and drawing, which was actually a really great background for architecture school. Visual, like doing 3 years of studio work kind of thing, and painting and drawing from life and still life, and going outside and doing drawing exercise like that is much better kind of practice for designing and being in the world of building than say like taking drafting classes all through high school, which a lot of kids figured that's what they were supposed to do to go to architecture school. And also the kind of the studio pressure environment was something I was kind of used to by the time I went to college.
No, I get that. So Kaz jumped into a different department. When she first talked to you about possibly joining the digital media track as a volunteer, how'd those conversations go?
They went. I really got, it was one of those things. I felt like I had done as much as I was going to do personally. I mean, this wasn't necessarily things I was sharing, with her when she was, doing her sales job. I figured, it's like you had me at hello. That was all I was, but I was going to let her go ahead and make the pitch. But I was kind of like, I'd done really kind of like, I'd gotten into not necessarily a rut, but pretty much had gotten very kind of, stable in what I was doing over in Hyatt, and I didn't feel like at this point, they had gotten a really good group of people kind of coming in for the last year or so, gotten their numbers to where a level that they felt kind of, that they were much more stable than they were, say, like right after the pandemic and all. So I felt like it wasn't a bad time to kind of like, move over, and the time we spend together is kind of really important for us, and so I felt like that really gave us a chance to kind of be much more, convenient to each other through the course of the day. Hyatt to Hilton's quite the hike, and so I kind of like the idea of getting a little bit, spending a little bit more time in proximity.
Yeah, yeah, that's something else she had said that. I mean, it's not like you were a stranger. Whenever you weren't
Oh
in
no, no,
attendance, yeah, you would definitely swing by and hang out and everything. And she said this would definitely give you guys some more time to see each other and do cool stuff. And I'm glad to hear that. It's always fun. And I mean, obviously, anybody who can last more than a year on tech ops, that's where everybody we all steal from tech ops ultimately, because they steal everybody. All the newbies go either there or security. So
yeah. Well, I mean, they're just such a it's such a big monster as far as the number of people on it. I think the I just kind of like that also. I really took it or really dealt with that in a way by just staying in a very small kind of corner of it, staying in the Hyatt group
sure.
and staying with that. So I really, a lot of the stuff is like, oh wow, there's tech ops over at hotels I've never even gone into, or or at least spent a lot of time in. So it was like, yeah, I you know, I don't know more people, far more people in tech ops than I do now. Just from that,
That's fair. I want to say,
because I never
between
felt the
being
really need to hop
150
around.
volunteers.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah. I'm not a hopper either. I like just to be planted. That's not my career trajectory. Yeah, I said that correctly. I don't know why it sounded weird in my head, but yeah, it doesn't seem like I get to sit still for long, but that's okay. I'm okay with that. Now, Sarah Rose asks you a question. What painting medium do you prefer? Currently, she is on
Well, when I
watercolor.
was my whole thing when I was in school painting, and even when I'm dealing with it, if I do things right now, I really just kind of like acrylics, and even down to like my medium was basically Kmart primary color house paint, in those little quart cans. What I found is that I was doing a lot of kind of uh, urban kind of uh, very much kind of like built environment kind of paintings, or very kind of muted kind of real world kind of things, and I was painting with kind of the same materials that the world was painted out of, which is uh, you know those kind of very basic uh, pigments. And the other thing about them is they you could they're simple dumb paints that you could water down and get a very amount of kind of do washes with, do heavier coats with, get some texture with. They were quick drying. If I was doing something, I would basically be able to go, and I knew that I had basically, could come back in an hour and screw with it, as opposed to say oils or some other things like that, where like, is it not dry yet? Or, and Lord, save me from anything that requires extended processes like ceramics uh, or
Glass blowing?
to extent, printmaking was okay. Printmaking, I could kind of, huh?
Glass blowing?
Yeah. No, see, that just, yeah. There are way too many. There are way too many glass blowers with missing limbs and fingers and shit. I don't. Sorry, with things like that, I don't mess with that.
I hear you. I hear you. All right. I got a bunch of different questions, but before I forget, I really want to ask a story that won't get you put on the couch, but something fun that we don't know about cause.
Let's see.
She's standing right behind you, I'm sure.
This is. Oh no, 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 no. She doesn't have to. She's back there. I don't have to worry about that. Um, trying to think of something. Let's see. When I first met her, we met at a bar. That would be kind of an obvious thing. The Gravity Pub in East Atlanta Village, if anybody's old enough to remember that place, a dive bar. And the first date we had, she was actually trying to move to a new apartment, and I kind of like interrupted it by saying, "Well, you still need to go out to dinner, don't you?" And so I took her to dinner. But she was trying to get her cat moved over to the new apartment, and it got out as we were trying to get it into the house, and I rescued the cat for her. And so that was if you really want to get to a woman's heart, you basically can do it through rescuing their cat. But yeah, I mean, that was we kind of even in spite of her two dogs and her love for her pug and Banksy and Nibbler, she's actually always been kind of a cat person, literally, when it comes down to it. And that's the person I met was a cat person. But that let's see. That's hardly a juicy. Let me think of anything good.
No, why you think of it? That explains a lot, though. She's a little bit crazy like a cat, and has a bit of that cat chaos in her soul.
And her she is very the funniest thing about her for me, and it has been for all the time I've known her, is how much smarter she is than she thinks she is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how she's got, the thing that really bonded us early on was the fact that both of us would crack jokes, in company of other people that would just be staring at us, but the two of us would be cracking up. And
No,
we spend a lot of time with things just going right over people's heads.
No, I get you. All right. What attracted you? Because architecture seems like a math science kind of thing. You came through the arts. So what was it about architecture that took you from painting into, oh man, I really want to design these things?
I'd never really been it. I'd gotten, in spite of like being somebody who'd really, enjoyed drawing and that sort of thing. I was never big into drawing people and drawing, or real, and that was kind of a funny thing. It was always kind of a running joke. It was like, you don't draw, or in a photography course, my final project, they're like, there are no people in these pictures. I'm like, no, I was taking pictures of buildings. And it always been a real fascination and kind of a focus on me. I've always really, had a great joy for observing and figuring out the world around me in the built environment. And that's always been very much more in the visual world what I'm focused on, more so than just about anything else. And it's not and I think the technic and mathematic and that kind of thing assumption about architecture, I think, is a little overblown. I think that's really kind of does a little bit of architecture a disservice. I mean, it was never, the first thing you learn almost in architecture school, though, is that architecture as a paying profession hasn't really been around that long. It's always been kind of a hobby of the wealthy third or fourth child that doesn't have to go into the priesthood. And once you get past that and realize you're going to not never be, unless you're, one of a few dozen or so in the world, you're never going to be rich on it, but you'll always, at least, live an interesting life. And but it's also that I've never, never had to use more than, intelligent geometrics and basic algebra math. It's never been about calculus or structural calculations. And if I'm getting into structural calculations, I need to call an engineer. They're supposed to do that stuff. I'm just the guy that comes up with the ideas. The other people are supposed to take them and make sure they work.
That okay? That's what I was thinking. So the architect comes up. Yeah, you come up with ideas. You do the sketches, and then I didn't realize it's engineers, but the engineers convert the math and make sure it's in code and stuff like
Right.
that. Okay.
Yep. And
Very cool.
or they're throwing the numbers in the machine, into the software to get the what size beam or what the span's going to be or what's the reaction. It's good to know that like say you've got a 2-story building that you've got to have shear panels that are holding the building up from going this way versus this way. And there's a lot of like logical technique to it, but it's not. I've got to know that it's this many newtons per square inch or crap like that. That's stuff
Sure.
that
Yeah.
basically the engineers are for. And it's also there's it's funny I hate to say that, but like in Europe and especially in places like France, there's actually like 2 levels of architecture out there. There's the guy that comes up with the weird ass ideas, and then there's an old kind of level of the profession that is the technician architects who actually like say, okay, this is how we got to get that weird, cube shaped Arc de Triomphe thing to actually like, not have its roof leak. And they really do separate it into 2 different kind of professions. America really doesn't do that, but it's also kind of like you'll see that there's basically a world of people that do designs for the sake of, design, as opposed to, the functional kind of people that just kind of get the buildings built. Obviously, I like to do a little bit of both. I'm definitely more of a problem solver and getting into the muddy details of things and getting into the operations and getting things built as opposed to, monuments to myself. I'm not an edifice builder when it comes to that kind of thing. That's never been my personality.
Well, you can build
Which
a
I think is
statue of
also an
me. I'm not
assumption
gonna
people
argue.
make about architects. Huh?
I said you can build a statue of me. I'm not going to argue. The edifice, but then I got you, John. That was good. Um, so, uh, 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 when you see blueprints, I know this kind of feels like a dumb question, but when you see blueprints, can you envision like the house, the building, everything from the 2D paper?
Uh, yeah. There's kind of first of all, it's funny. The blueprints is a wonderful term, but it's also so archaic. It's literally about a 100-year-old process that hasn't been really used in about 40 years or so. We do black and white Xeroxes just like everybody else does. But when I look at a drawing set, yeah, that's one of the things is that one of the disconnects in the profession sometimes is if you're dealing with clients and dealing with people, you've got to very quickly, kind of read them as they'll be sitting there looking at the drawings with you. And you'll go, okay, there's this, and this happening, as you can see by this and the stairs and then the open space there. And they'll just go, oh, yeah, that's great. And sometimes they're doing that because they get it. And sometimes they don't get it, and they're just kind of rolling right along because that's how they've, learned how to be in their profession over the years. And so it's like, oh, you got to figure out whether they actually can see what things, are from the paper or be able to really explain it really well to them, because you don't want to get in a situation where the thing's getting built and the guy goes, I never thought it was going to look like this. And that happens more than you might imagine.
Oh no, well, the fact that somebody thinks they know what it looks like but doesn't really, I could see happening. My wife is one of the people. Like we had the fortune of having family members who built houses. So as we had saved up money through renting or whatnot, we were able to build a house before we had kids. And I could see the blueprint, and I was like, okay, I get the basic gist of it. I can kind of visualize what the room's going to look like with this. It was just lines on paper for her. She just couldn't do it. So we found ways to help kind of model it in the early days online. But uh, yeah, I did. I just wondered if it just popped up like full vision for you, or if it was more of a, all right, yeah, I'm almost there.
Sometimes, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. One of the things is that sometimes I'll look at a set of drawings, for somebody else's project and go, and I have to kind of, digest it for a while. Even now after all these years, it takes a while sometimes.
I get you. Now you brought a solid favor to the DC digital media track, where Kyle's like, hey, because I do forget things, and she's like, hey, you remember he's an architect. If you wanted to, he could probably really lay out the room. And so I grabbed all the information and sent it your way. And then I guess at the last meeting we were at, you had the actual printouts, and it was pitch perfect. Like I could look at those and see exactly how the room is laid out and how it's going to flow, and that was fun. But before I'm going to ask you because it was fascinating the different pieces you went and got to make it work. But before you get there, uh, with what I turned into you, with what I had sent over of my little rough shod room graph on a scale of I did okay for a fifth grader to I flunked like Billy Madison. How bad was my prototype?
Uh, you're. I knew exactly um, what you were, heading towards. And I think I would say give yourself enough credit for that. Definitely. If you were a client on a professional level, I would definitely appreciate and be able to kind of run with what you gave me.
Okay, all right. So when you were
Yeah,
building it, I learned from you.
it's about.
Go ahead. I was going to let you go ahead, John. Well, we're just having
Oh, okay.
side
Sorry.
conversations. And
I'm
it's
sorry. Well, we were having I was having whether it was lag or was it us or what, and so no. Yeah.
yeah, there's still something
The
going on with the internet tonight.
yeah. But anyway, no, that was a fun little exercise. It was actually the other thing that I really that I come from with an art background is it's not just getting a drawing done; it's getting a drawing that communicates done. And a lot of it. One of the things is that I am old enough that I was actually drawing things, with what they called rapidograph ink and mylar sheets and not the T squares, but what they call parallel bars that would go, and hand lettering things and all that sort of thing, to using AutoCAD and using computers on everything. And what fell out, or what was the toughest thing to get back into drawings, was line weights and communication of hierarchy and distance and importance on drawings. Everything got to be the same width. Suddenly everybody, I made the joke all the time back then, was like, oh my God, everything looks like an engineer drew these. And then, slowly got better and better. And now the problem is that you've got 3D visualization programs that do, like that are, one's called Revit, and basically you aren't so much drawing a building out on a plan, you're assembling the building in 3D, which is great. But it's that step between the model you've built in Revit to the drawings you create with that model that once again the visual communication gets sometimes gets squirrely, and you have like little black blurbs that if you actually were able to zoom in on paper, which is not something people can do, you'd see thousands of little details in there, but they don't really do any good if you actually can't see what's on the drawing. So It's one of those things. Is like, I have this kind of a grouchy old man attitude about these things. It's like when I was a kid, but
I've been in the
I also
paramedic
don't.
industry long enough to go from uh, doing these dot to dots. Right as I came into school, they just finished doing the stick figure guide and drawing the damage on them. To we got to do dot to dots for Scantron on one side, and then on the other side we wrote all of our notes and everything. To yeah, now it's in a tablet, and it amazes me. Yeah, I'm sure you've run into this as well. It amazes me. People who only know the electronic form, they only know the tablet. And we've oversimplified it now. Like if it goes down, the state has gotten smart and they simplified it onto a double-sided piece of paper of getting the basics to cover the legalities. Then you can go back when the system comes up and type it in, and it'll cover. Everybody's like, I don't know what to do. Like you take a pen and you put it on the paper and you write everything that you would have clicked on instead.
I was doing a hand sketch on something the other day, and I think at least two people in the office came up and said, "You're left-handed." Well, yeah.
Isn't Cause left-handed as well?
No, 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 no. We've managed to have. She has a left-handed father and two left-handed children. She obviously is. She suppresses it. That's my theory.
That would work. I can see that. Um, but yeah, the layout you did for the rooms is really really good. I know we're getting the finished copy up soon and over to the people that needs to have it. But I'm telling everybody it's going to be a nice refinement on the layout that we did last year. That was new. John and
Yeah.
Cos have come up with some better ways to do some things, and it looks really sharp on paper. And I think it's going to look great in the room.
Well, the best part is like once you get everything down, edits are like, move everything over 90 degrees. Okay. Easier to do that way.
Click the button.
Faster than moving chairs. I've tried. Well, it's not a button. I think they get that clear, but it's fast.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's click an icon, not a button. Okay, I got you. All right.
Trying to explain to the kids with that little floppy disk icon in the corner. It's like, what the hell is that?
Well, that means save. Yeah, but why? Why does it mean save? What
Why? What does it mean save?
We still say rewind. There's no winding of digital.
Yeah.
Right? It's.
Well, no, I mean
what do.
I know, no. I mean, if a better word comes along, we'll adopt it pretty quickly. I mean, for most of these things. I mean, your case in point, they're still calling it blueprints.
True.
I mean, you're far from the only one who does that.
Yeah, it's. I love that. In some cases, they actually print it with a blue-black background, even though it's just printed on paper, which doesn't make it a blueprint. But yeah, it's funny.
Well, yeah, that there is it's all about it. There was a process. What they invented. It's all about like you don't realize is that like up until the late 19th and early 20th century, there was no way to copy a drawing easily. You had to either get somebody to engrave it for you, to print multiple versions of it as a lithograph, or you basically hired somebody to go and copy. And the blueprint process was actually coated paper that you put the drawing on, and that's why they were on linen and other very thin materials, vellum and that kind of things, because it was translucent. And the coated paper, you literally had these slides that would stick them out of windows. And After several hours in the sunshine, you'd pull them back in, process them with ammonia vapor, and it would turn everything that wasn't uh, shielded from the light blue. That was the diazo process, is what they called it. And so that was where the blueprints came from. They figured out a way about 50 years later to reverse it, where the light would make the backgrounds go away and leave the dark lines. And that was the blueprints you usually saw, was the blue line things as opposed to the blue background. Uh,
Sure.
but yeah, if you've got a uh, old 1920s vintage drawing with the blue background, that's how they actually got the prints made. Um,
That's awesome.
and you can actually scan those, into your average Photoshop or what have you, and reverse them, and they just pop into these most brilliant looking drawings because suddenly you see all the line weights and all the dark and light kind of things that were actually on the original vellum.
Wow. That's actually fascinating. Uh, I know we're kind of coming to time, and we're going to make an announcement here towards the end. But before we do, one of my favorite questions to ask everybody: what's one of your most favorite memories at DragonCon?
Let's see. I have this one cosplay that I've seen many, many times. And at first I just thought it was brilliant, and I noted, but like now that I've seen it every year, it's one of those that I really just appreciate. And it's Mecha Stewie. And it's Stewie from was it Family Guy?
Family Guy.
And he's in a robot assembly created out of toys and all the things from his playroom. And it doesn't exist in the show. There was no Mecha Stewie. And it's like every time I see it, I realize it's like, this is, they mash up an invention that is just him, that he came up with this. And that really kind of, in a way, just summed up how brilliant the minds and creativity in Dragon Con really are, to just on a regular basis every time. And just spending my time with a dumb grin on my face. The other one would be seeing up in the Pulse Loft in the Marriott Marquis lobby, Pulse Bar railing, Statler and Waldorf hanging out on the railing, just
Nice.
shaking their heads and looking at the world going by.
That's awesome. The closest I've gotten to that was at some Halloween party. I used to work in the hotels doing AV. And so we did a walk through this room, one last check for lights and whatnot. And they had a zombie. It's a cardboard cutout, but they had a zombie Waldorf and Statler up in the balcony area looking down. I was like, that's cool. Now, were the ones that you saw people or Muppets?
They were full body heads, costumes, but they were scaled up to be basically where the people were about Muppet sized heads. In other words, proportionately to the human body, it was about 2 or 3 feet in diameter.
Yeah. I am checking something on dragoncon.org to make sure that we can announce. But as I look this up, what I can tell you for sure is we got one of the first announcements of guests for the year the Digital Media Track did. And it is at the McElroys will be back this year. My brother, and me are going to be there. Clint's coming, and it's going to be fun. And they've made it clear they really want to dive in and play on the track. So they're going to be throughout the different panels throughout the whole week at Dragon Con there. And I'm trying to see if my other, I think it's under guests. My other guests are announceable. Um, oh, I got mine. I did find out that I can be a director and a guest at the same time. I just get one badge. Like, all I need is one badge. I don't care about if I get my guest status back. That'd be sweet. So quick announcement: Charles McFall is going to be a guest of the Dragon Con Digital Media Track this year. But they haven't announced me. Stupid. No. Let's see. I'm going to tell you anyway because I know they're coming, but I was just trying to see if it is on the. Yes, it is. It is on the website. It's the only one under you. But our other guest that we got to come in this year is Uploads of Fun, which is Josh and his two kids. I honestly forget the kids' names right now, but I got to talk to Josh. But go look them up on YouTube, TikTok. It's a very family-friendly, family-creative video. And it's very dad-kid stuff. Him doing dad jokes on them, them doing little skits and whatnot. And it's very wholesome, very fun. And we already have a number of panels planned for them to do. One of them is going to be growing up in the digital world, where the kids will be the ones talking about, and of course Josh will be there as their dad and whatnot, but the kids will be more or less leading that panel on what you do as a child, as a youth to be creative. And I expect parents to come of kids who want to be the next Minecraft star or whatever and ask those questions. But it's going to be so much fun. It's so cool. And I know, John, I know that Kaz is super excited about the McElroys coming back.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, I am too, actually.
You're a big fan?
No, I did. I heard of them very much in the beginning, Adventure Zone and that kind of thing too. So
nice, very cool. And the returning this year is also Stoner Gump. So we have 3 guests this year, which is a lot for our track. We've gone from barely having 1 to now we have 3 different distinct guest groups, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Other than that, John, I don't know how close you follow the announcements. So I'll if you don't, that's fine. I'm gonna leave it here for you. Has anybody been announced that you're like, oh man, that's gonna be so cool that they're at Dragon Con?
I just kind of honestly, one of the truths right now for me is just between the post-pandemic years and the strike years, I do not worry about announced chickens before they show up in their little nests at the con. I kind of give it I give it a little bit of a breather before I actually the fact that I had last year somehow ended up being within arm's length of John Cleese and was like, oh my God, that really is John Cleese. That's about as close as I came to that was my other kind of wow, that probably won't happen any other time in my life.
Right.
So,
yeah, the things that happen at Dragon Con are quite amazing. But all right, we are going to get set here to jump out. But John, I'm very happy that you're joining our team this year.
I am too.
And let's see, I'm going to promote Tyra. You can find Tyra over at tyraburton.com, or Linktree is Tyra Burton. She is supposed to be back next week. We will see how that goes. But you can find all of my stuff over at Linktree/RGOP42. And I have got a giving campaign going for 1EMS. I'm going to link that there as well. But if you ever wanted to help out EMS in Georgia, now is your chance. So tune in next week. I'm sure it's going to be somebody awesome. But we know Tyra will be back, so therefore it's just going to be fantastic. And I ran the music out, so here we go again. Again, one more time, thank you, John, for being on, and we will all be awesome again next week.
All right.